The Golden State Warriors 2024-25 NBA season might be over. It might be in jeopardy. It might be in trouble due to these three mistakes. And yes, I did film this video before Golden State defeated the Minnesota Timberwolves, but I still think this all stands true. We're going to unpack it all on today's show. But before we do, I want to get a pulse from Dub Nation on what you think of the Golden State Warriors right now. What's your confidence level in GSW? If you say 1 in the comment section, you think we're cooked. This season is dead. It's over. If you say 10, it still means we can win an NBA championship. Scale your confidence level for me down below in the comments right now. What's going on, Dub Nation? You're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Tyler Smith, and on today's show, we're going to unpack 3 big-time mistakes that might have Golden State's season pretty much on the back burner at this point. There might not be a point in competing for an NBA championship anymore because of these 3 big-time mistakes. This could all be over right now. And yes, Golden State did beat the Minnesota Timberwolves last night, but it only kind of reinforces my first point. Why don't we get right into it on today's show? And the first mistake that Golden State, and especially the front office, I want to preface this with, these are front office mistakes. Nothing necessarily that the players did, even though, it kind of trickles down to the players, and 2 specifically that we'll talk about later. But the first big mistake that this front office made was that they didn't put reliable scoring around number 30, Stephen Curry. Let's just call it like it is. Steph is 36. He's going to turn 37 in about 3.5 months. He just can't do it all anymore. And I know that he willed Golden State to a win last night. He had 31 points, and he kind of closed the game for him. But that kind of only reinforces my point even more. Golden State has not been able to do that consistently this season. You can't rely on a 36-year-old to carry you from minute 1 to minute 48, day in and day out over the course of an 82-game regular season, plus a postseason that you hopefully are in pursuit of. It's later on in the season. I just don't think Steph can do it all anymore. And not to say that he is not a top 10, top 5 talent anymore, but the numbers suggest that he isn't having the best season of his career, and it's borderline one of the worst seasons of his career. Averaging basically a career low 22.0 points per game, right? He hasn't done it, something like that, in over a decade. I would call that, for the prime of Stephen Curry's career, the lowest and the worst scoring output of his career. Field goal percentage, second lowest of his career. 3-point percentage, third lowest of career, right? But it's still a blistering 41%. I can't be too mad at all that. But the most glaring stat is the minutes per game, right? Steve Kerr, this Warriors coaching staff, have kind of been playing a game with Steph where they're not trying to play him too much in the regular season, but Golden State doesn't have enough support around him to be able to stack up wins in his absence or if he's having a really bad game. And you know what? You know who exploited that to a T? The Memphis Grizzlies a couple of days ago. I mean, Golden State loses by 50. Not much can go right, but Stephen Curry's night really, really went wrong as well. 2 points, 0 of 7 from the field, 0 of 6 from 3, and a negative assist-to-turnover ratio. And I think that's the first time in a long time, if ever, that Stephen Curry goes without a field goal made in a game at all. That's absolutely insane. And want to know why? Because Memphis was hounding Stephen Curry with all the young and athletic and spunky defenders that they have, point-of-attack defenders they have at the guard position. They were just platooning them. They were rotating them in and out. And for a 36-year-old like Stephen Curry, I just don't think that is a sustainable formula. Memphis knew that Golden State didn't have any off-the-bounce scorers around them heading into this game. They knew that they didn't have somebody who could go attack and basically beat them other than Stephen Curry. So they just threw the kitchen sink at Steph. And you know what? I bet you more teams do that as the season goes on because they know Golden State doesn't have reliable secondary scoring. And I saw this on Twitter a couple days ago. You could argue Golden State doesn't have reliable primary scoring. At this point, Golden State might need a player who is above Steph. And I don't think that's necessarily possible, but they might need a player above Steph that could go out there and get buckets. I'm not so sure a trade target is out there, but Golden State did miss on 2 massive trade targets this offseason. There were opportunities there for Golden State to go out there and put support around Steph. I know Paul George isn't having a great season right now, and he did get injured coming in, but if you did make that trade for Paul George, there's no telling what the butterfly effect would have been. He still could have been an all-star level player this season for Golden State, and I think it was a missed opportunity at the end of the day, as well as Lauri Markkanen, who he isn't having the best season of his career either, but he still shoots 39% from 3. He's still 7-foot demigod, and I think his season's more indicative on the Utah Jazz's tanking position than it is on Lauri Markkanen's skill set. I think he might have won might want to be in Golden State more than he wants to be in Utah right now. Even though he just got a massive contract extension, I'm sure he was kind of thinking in the back of his head, maybe I do want to get traded and play next to Stephen Curry for the prime of my career. But these are missed opportunities by Golden State. And now you're just left with Jimmy Butler on the table. And does Jimmy Butler necessarily make you a championship contender? I'm not so sure I can say that. Like, there aren't superstars available out there right now via trade. Like, this era has kind of come and gone, right? Like the Harden wanting out, the KD wanting out, the Kyrie wanting out. The Karl Anthony Towns, he wanted out a couple of years ago, and Anthony Davis wanting out, Kyrie wanting out of another spot. Like it doesn't seem like there's many superstar level players and superstar level scorers wanting out of their current situations. Guys are locked up for long-term deals. Jimmy Butler, impending free agency, he's kind of like the only one who's on that path and is on the verge of being traded. And it looks like at this point, Golden State might be desperate enough to make a big-time swing deal for Jimmy Butler, but I'm not so sure that gets them over the championship hump. But maybe I'm wrong. Let me know down in the comment section. This will be the pinned comment on today's video. Does Jimmy Butler make Golden State a contender in the West? Can Golden State win a championship or at least win the West with Jimmy Butler in the building? Let me know in the comment section by typing Y for yes or typing N for no. Next up, the two biggest mistakes that Golden State has made, and they kind of relate back to mistake number one. We're going to dive into both of those on the back half of today's show. But first, I got to give a major shout out to today's sponsor. That is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports platform with over 10 million active members, including yours truly. Make your holidays bigger and brighter with PrizePicks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. And you guys can get a free $50 in your account when you use our promo code CLNS and place your first $5 entry. You might be asking, how do you even place an entry on PrizePicks? Super simple. Just pick 2 or more players and their stat projections, and just pick more or less to watch the real money roll in real time. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. Join now because this holiday season, PrizePicks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during their promo Picksmas. And they got tons of other promos too, like a Flex Friday or a Taco Tuesday, where they're always giving you discounted stat projections and free lineups back if you end up losing on that lineup. I didn't lose on this lineup, though. I'll show you. I play this. I do this weekly. I had a 4-pick entry a couple of days ago, and I decided to make it rain. I had Jalen Williams less than 5.5 rebounds. I don't know why. Sometimes I just get surgical. Sometimes I just feel these picks. I did Dennis Schroeder in his debut for Golden State in that 50-point blowout loss. Less than 13.5 points, cashed with ease. Karl Anthony Towns in his revenge game against the Minnesota Timberwolves had more than 24 points. Easy money. And then Anthony Edwards in that same game, more than 1.5 blocks plus steals. You can take my picks. You can fade my picks. Just wanted to show you an example of my picks. Do it at PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use that promo code CLNS, and you get $50 in your account for free when you place your first $5 entry. You don't even need to win to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. You guys could have probably predicted where I was going with this next big mistake, and it's the faith in Brandon Podziemski. At the end of the day, this guy might just not be a good basketball player. Like I'm just not so sure that he fits, and it only adds more fuel to the fire for me when we know what Brandon Podziemski was dangled for in the offseason. Like, we know the offseason report was that Utah wanted Brandon Podziemski back in any Lauri Markkanen deal. And Golden State said no. I can't believe it. And I go back and forth about who to place the blame on here, because I know Steve Kerr likes him. I know Mike Dunleavy has said he likes him. But I really do think at the end of the day, this boils down to Warriors owner Joe Lacob. Here's what Joe Lacob had to say in the offseason about Brandon Podziemski. He said he was a revelation, talking about his rookie year. He was a revelation, to be quite honest. I mean, he's one of the all-rookie top 5 in the league. I don't know how he made that metric up, but whatever. He started a whole bunch of games for us. And by the way, he was second team anyway. Steve Kerr had troubles getting him off the floor. I mean, he had to have him on the floor. He was so good. Was he? Was he so good? I mean, the numbers are good. Yeah, the numbers are fine, right? For a rookie, they're solid numbers. But, like, to call him a revelation, like he was some game-changing talent, I just think is disingenuous. I just don't think he was that good a player. The three-point percentage was good, but was it on a crazy high volume? No, I think he was taking like 3 a game. So not a crazy volume there at all. He doesn't really have a diversified portfolio in terms of putting the ball in the cup. Like, he doesn't score in a plethora of ways efficiently. And like, the numbers this year are even worse than this. Like, he has had a big-time sophomore regression. And I don't know, man. Like, I just don't think that he is necessarily a player that they thought they were going to get. And I think a lot of people have come to that conclusion now as well. Here's more from Lakeup on what he thinks of Podziemski. He says he does so many things well. He's ultra confident. He's got an NBA body. Does he? He can get wherever he wants. He can obviously shoot threes. Oh, really? Can he? Shoots like 20% this year. He can drive. He can pass. I mean, what can he do? I don't know, be a net positive on the basketball court for Golden State. We're really excited. We think we've got a future all-star. We really do. Was Joe Lakeup doing drugs this summer? Like, was Joe Lakeup hanging out with Aaron Rodgers in the ayahuasca tent doing some crazy mind drugs? Like, where did he come up with this assumption? I mean, yeah, maybe I'm blinded by what I've seen from Brandon Podziemski so far this year, and I'm forgetting about how he provided for Golden State last year and how he balled out in the Summer League. I can't believe I got myself worked up about that. And he balled out in the Team USA Select. Obviously, none of that translated. Like, I don't understand. He's been turnover prone. He can't make a shot. He's not good in the clutch. Like, I just don't know what Brandon Podziemski does well on the basketball court, especially this year. Takes charges. It's awesome. That's awesome, man. Really contributes to wins. Yeah, awesome. I mean, it does, but like when you don't do anything else in the court, you're a net negative out there. And to be fair, Brandon Podziemski is playing a little bit out of position here a lot. Like they sometimes run him at the 3, and clearly he is not a small forward in today's NBA. He's really barely a shooting guard. He's got to have the ball in his hands. He's a ball-dominant player. Doesn't really work super well off the ball when he's not a threat to score. But hey, Steve Kerr still believes in him as well. Here's what Kerr had to say on Podziemski. He said he's a good shooter. I think over the course of his career, he's going to shoot a good percentage. I think Brandon is a hell of a player. He's tough. He's physical. He's someone who we really trust with the game on the line. Jesus. I mean, if you trust Brandon Podziemski with the game on the line, you might be in for a lot of losses, which Golden State has been. They've lost 9 of the last 12. Like, fourth quarter Pods is one of the worst players in the NBA. Let's be quite honest. That's actually the period where he plays his most minutes. 7.5 minutes of his on average time come in the fourth quarter. And he shoots 41% from the field, shoots 15% from 3. 15% from 3. Keep in mind, this was way lower like last week. It was like 5% last week. So maybe he is coming along a little bit more. But, oh my God, these numbers are horrific. 61% from the free throw line. So he literally does not trust himself in the clutch because he shoots like 80% everywhere else from the free throw line. So he literally looks to me like he gets just nervous. What am I? The yips. That's what I was trying to go with. The yips in the fourth quarter. That's what it looks like to me. And a negative plus minus in the basketball court. Golden State is 2.3 points worse when Brandon Podziemski's on the floor in the fourth quarter. You know how bad that is? That's his only negative period of his entire, splits. That is the only time in the entire game where he is a net negative on the court, and it's by a lot. It's by a good margin. And I say all this to say, like, Brandon Podziemski could be a good player. He could be a great player one day. It's not going to be right now. It's not going to be next year. It probably won't be the year after that when Golden State is trying to win their last championship with Steph and Curry. I mean, to call him untouchable and not trade him for a 7-foot sharpshooting player, I mean, it's borderline fireable, but you can't fire the owner because it seems like it was his decision. I bet you if Mike Dunleavy was one-on-one with me in an interrogation room, and I asked him, would you have traded Brandon Podziemski? You would have traded Brandon Podziemski for Lauri Markkanen? He probably would have said yes. So maybe this is a beyond a general manager thing, beyond a coach thing. Maybe they're kind of being forced to keep this guy. And it sounds like Joe Lakeup made the wrong decision. I have more to say about Joe Lakeup in just a moment as we get to our final mistake. That's faith in Jonathan Kuminga. And I think this is a little bit less of a hit piece that I'm about to have on Jonathan Kuminga, but he's still not that good. He's still not a player who I think can be a third or even a fourth option on a championship team at this point. And according to Brian Windhorst, I guess I'm disagreed with by the owner once again. He said Warriors owner Joe Lakeup still has an affinity for Kuminga according to league sources, even as Kerr seems to run hot and cold with him. But a strong message came this fall when Kuminga and the team didn't agree on a contract extension. Now, to be fair, Kuminga has been in a spot where his role is getting jumbled around. He's starting, he's off the bench, now he's starting again. He's not really having much consistency, and that's probably because he doesn't really fit that well in this lineup. I mean, I just don't believe in Joe Lakeup's talent evaluation at this point. He thought Brandon Podziemski and Jonathan Kuminga would carry this team into the future, while basically completely ignoring the fact that they have 2 Hall of Famers on the roster still who are on the plus side of 35, and their days are numbered. Like there's only so much time that Steph and Draymond have to compete for an NBA championship. I am completely out on Joe Lacob and his talent evaluation at this point. Is Jonathan Kuminga a top 100 player? Like, is he good? Like, I don't know. And Steve Kerr had actually mentioned, as we read that Steve Kerr is hot and cold on Jonathan Kuminga, right? He actually mentioned after the Minnesota game, he was like, these guys got to learn how to play with Stephen Curry. These guys got to learn how to not take 17-footers with 12 seconds left in the shot clock when Stephen Curry is on the floor with you, because that's a bad shot. And I think those comments were directed at Jonathan Kuminga. And I think he has too much tunnel vision sometimes. He doesn't really look to pass a whole lot. Like, he takes inefficient shots. He shoots like 27% from the mid-range this year. I don't know if you guys knew this, but Steve Kerr's talking about Kuminga there, a guy who shoots 27% from the mid-range, and that's probably where he gets the majority of his looks in the jump shooting department. Like, I just don't think that Jonathan Kuminga is complementary to Stephen Curry and Draymond Green the way that maybe Joe Lacob and some of the members of the front office thought that he would be heading into this season. I mean, he promised that he made a big jump in the jump shooting department. Promised that he'd be a floor spacer. He's not. He's a downhill player who can cut from the dunker spot and make highlight plays and maybe defend a little bit. I mean, his defensive field goal percentage is pretty mid. Like, I call it below average. Tyler Hero and him have the same defensive field goal percentage this season. Like, I don't think he's some stick defender that you place on your best wing. I just don't. But the Golden State has a chance to extend him this summer. He's going to enter restricted free agency. Somebody's going to offer him $25, $30+ million a season, and Golden State might just end up agreeing to that extension as well. Would you extend Jonathan Kuminga long term? Let me know down in the comment section by typing E for extend or P for pass. Because the guy has gotten worse this season. There's no doubt about it. He's taking more threes. He's shooting about the same percentage. So that's bad off the rip. He's actually overall less efficient from the field because he's shooting more jump shots as a whole. His points per game is down. His rebounds per game is down, which is funny because I actually think he's crashing the glass the most of his career this season. It's not showing up on the stat sheet. And these are very vanilla numbers. Like, you're not going to get too much from all this, like, analytically. But it just goes to show he told us in the summer that he was trying to make a massive improvement, and he regressed mightily this year. And maybe it all comes back to Steve Kerr and his inconsistencies with the rotation and the death by depth that they had to open this season, where there was 13 guys that could have played in this rotation, and it caused for Steve Kerr to not know which 8 or 9 guys they should be putting out on the floor on a consistent basis, or which starting 5, because he threw another new starting 5 against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like, maybe it's a consistency thing at the end of the day. Maybe the continuity in Golden State is not there, and that's on the coach. But at the end of the day, I don't think Jonathan Kuminga fits, and I don't think Brandon Podziemski necessarily fits either. And, like, the same deal with Podziemski, Golden State held him out of trade talks for multiple players. They held him out of, even though Utah didn't want him, they held him out of Lauri Markkanen trade talks. They held him out of Paul George trade talks. That's what kind of didn't get the deal done, is that they weren't dangling Jonathan Kuminga in that deal, and they most recently held him out of Cam Johnson trade talks, who I believe is an exponentially better fit than Jonathan Kuminga on this roster. And now the reports are coming out that Golden State could break this whole thing up. They could break this young core up, and they could just sell him to fully push their chips into the table on a Stephen Curry and Draymond Green championship pursuit. Should have did that 6 months ago, bro. Like, literally should have did that 6 months ago. Now you're in the spot right now where you're going to have to trade Jonathan Kuminga for less because his value is down. Brandon Podziemski's value is down. Moses Moody's value is down. Trace Jackson-Davis' value is down. All 4 major young talents that you have on this team, their value is in the gutter, and now you're going to have to trade them for less. You're going to probably have to include Andrew Wiggins in a Jimmy Butler trade if that's the deal you want to make. You're not going to get a player of Lauri Markkanen's caliber back for Jonathan Kuminga. And my final thoughts here is that the front office is cooked. This front office made fatal mistakes for this Golden State franchise and did an absolute disservice, borderline disrespected Stephen Curry. Basically saying that oh yeah, Steph will take care of it. Steph will carry us. We'll be good. We'll be all right. 36-year-old turning 37, he can carry us to a championship. It's asinine, and that's what. And I think Golden State is going. What they're going to do now is just make a panic deal that's going to ruin their entire future. I think it's over, man. It's maybe I'm being pessimistic. Call me a hater in the comments, or you can maybe call me a hater on Twitter as well, at Smitty at CS. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but from what I've seen over the past basically month for Golden State, is that they are trending in the wrong direction. These young talents are not good, and they're now going to maybe have a fire sale that gets them back less than what they could have traded for them over the summer. Hit me up on Twitter at SmittySCS, and make sure you are subscribed to the channel, youtube.com/WarriorsTV. We're on the road to 71,000 subscribers. We'll see you in the next one. Let's go Dubs.